Preparing a new bed or border. Creating a new bed or border is a bit like decorating a room in the house. You have an idea of what it might look like, but there is a fair bit of work to do before you achieve a finished result. The secret of success is not to cut corners but prepare properly, choose your plants wisely, and take your time. A hurried job rarely produces the best result. Straight or curved. It may seem obvious to lay out the borders in your garden to follow the fence line. However, that accentuates the shape of the garden, defining the boundaries rather than making your plot more interesting. Gently curved borders deeper in the corners, often the and edges and can make the space look larger. Simple sweeping curves are best. Avoid wavy edges, they look contrived and fussy and are difficult to maintain. Straight borders, which create strong angles and can look effective, especially in small garden if you want more formal and contemporary effect. Make those borders wide enough. Whenever you choose, make your borders wide enough. A narrow border along a boundary is useless unless you just want to grow climbing plants. Even that, it is best to plant them at least 30 centimeter 1 foot away from a wall or fence. Wider border are easily to manage because they give your plants the space to grow, and you will not have to keep cutting them back to contain them in the space. It is better to have fewer planting areas but make them bigger. 1 meter wide is really a minimum, 2 meters better. Just go out and measure the width of a single shrub, rose, bush, or perennial, and you will see how much space is needed. It is particularly important to have enough space in bed or water where you want to plant large shrubs or trees, perhaps to screen neighboring property or just to background to your garden. Removing the turf. If the area of your new bed or border is covered in grass, then the first job is to remove it. In most cases, this is the best done manually rather than using a weed killer pushed into the ground vertically to the depth of a few centimeters. If you are unsure about the line, be conservative. It is easier to take away more grass but much harder to put it back. Then remove spared wet strips of grass by cutting around them and slapping them spared under them just beneath the soil surface. These can be stacked face down in a corner of a garden and allowed to rot. They will produce some nice loamy soil for use later. Get rid of weeds. If there are any perennial weeds, you must tackle those before starting planting. Bindweed, thistles, ground elder, nettles, and other perennial weeds will re-emerge from the fragments you leave in the soil as you dig. If you have light sandy soil, it may be possible to dig them out carefully, but in most cases it will be necessary to use a weed killer. Effective herbicides that control perennial weeds without prematurely damaging the ground do not work on bare soil. They must be applied to weeds in growth, so allow them to develop plenty of leaves. Then treat this with SBK tough weed killer. This gets rid down to kill the roots and will kill even woody weeds, but not grass.